Welcome to Season 3, Episode 23 of the Draft Rugby podcast, where we discuss Fantasy Super Rugby, the game they play online in heaven. You can find the website at draftrugby.com and get after us on the socials at Draft Rugby. Joining me over Zoom again tonight, I have the lads, Harry and Nelson. How are you both this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, mate. I think I'm ready for better after so much footy compared to what we're normally used to.
I'm very good because I look like I might actually win my fantasy footy matchup this week.
Oh, are you saying, Nelson, are you not looking the same way? Or?
Oh, we've only got draft scores, so we'll see.
Very good. I like it. Nelson, he always holds out hope to the nth hour, which is fantastic to see.
A few yellow cards definitely didn't help me.
No, it was great. Anyway, how good was it having some Aussie footy back? I mean, I, for one, really enjoyed the Aussie footy. I enjoyed both Kiwi footy as well, but it was fantastic getting everything back.
Some of the best Aussie games I've seen in a long time.
For sure.
Indeed. All right. On the menu for tonight, we will be reviewing Fantasy Super Rugby 2.0. I'm going to say Fantasy Super Rugby 2.0 so I don't have to keep saying both Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby AU, and because they have differing rounds. So instead, it was Fantasy Super Rugby 2.0 round 1. We're going to preview that for Entree. For main course, we're going to review that for Entree. For main course, we're going to preview round 2. And for dessert, we'll just have a brief chat on our OG league, our OG fantasy league, and what happened in our draft and over the weekend, and a quick platform update. So let's jump straight in. And for Entree, we had Fantasy Super Rugby 2.0 round 1. The buys were the Blues and the Force. And in our first game, we had the Reds and the Tars. Harry, take it away.
No, I think I'll take this one away.
Oh.
I was just loved this game to bits. The Reds took this one out 32-26. It was actually 4 tries to 2. And this one, in the returns column, we had Brendan Paenga-Mosa. He missed didn't get much of game time at the start of the season. He returned after an ankle injury. Hunter Paisami, he returned after his MCL injury. Ned Hannigan after his ongoing concussion issues. The new injuries, we had Angus Blythe go down pretty early with a concussion. I think it was a head knock. And Hunter Paisami, he had an ankle injury.
Which we saw in the photo post-game. So nothing's been announced, right?
He could have just been icing his ankle, mate, okay? It didn't mean he's injured.
He was icing it after the match, and obviously that scares all of us because we love him.
True.
Look, this is awesome. The Battle of the Border is back. The passion, the niggle, the aggression, everything was in this game for me. It was like we were watching Phil Ward versus David Croft back in the day. It was just something that had been missing so long in this derby. And the fact that the Reds actually got this done for the first time since 2013 was really good. And the youngsters, looked at the red young players after the match, and they were just elated. They were over the moon with the win. So you could see that there was a lot of desire to win there from the young guys. But one of the most exciting things for me were some of these big hits. Lockie Swinton put on a bunch of them. He must have been listening to our podcast when we said he needed to do something. And he absolutely pumped Taniela Tupou, who was 135 kgs, and he just pumped him. And then he let him know it as well, stood over him and just yelled abuse at him and just told him how much he smashed him.
That's what I loved the most was the lip that everyone was, so the chat that was being thrown out.
Yeah, it was so good. One slightly dominated, disappointing thing from a Tars fan. Angus Bell looked so solid in the scrum early on in the year, and something was missing in this one. He really got shown up by Taniela Tupou. There was 4 penalties quite early against Bell in the scrum, leading to a yellow card. Tupou didn't want to be shown up though, so he decided he'd get his own yellow card and did 2 late hits on the kickers, which saw him
both times.
Yeah, I think so. But
it's just hard to slow down as a big man, all right? When you get ahead of steam up, all right?
Individually, they weren't so bad, but together they were retarded.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, the skill execution, this one, I saw a few people sort of saying they didn't think it was that interesting game. The aggression was there, but the skill execution was, there was great teams linking up, the players linking up, great counter attack. There was some really slick set piece moves as well, like the one that set up the Maddox try, Swinton throwing the ball inside, and Maddox looked really, really solid in this match, not only through that, but he was slotting in a 10, a bit like that Veal role as well. But this game, yeah, awesome game. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. In terms of match stats, the Reds had 59% of the possession and 42% of the territory, yet the Tars had 472 to 402 run meters. So they were just running that ball non-stop when they got the chance. The Tars made 11 to 5 line breaks, 9 to 1 offloads. They were really throwing that ball around and having some enterprising play. Turnovers, the Reds took this one 8 to 2, with Fraser McRide in his starting debut getting 4 to himself, which is freakishly good.
Yeah, how could you say?
Oh, freakishly good.
Showing up the Wallabies captain.
That's it.
Reds line out was pretty poor, 74% with 14 from 19, where the Tars was 91% with 10 from 11, which is something you hope for with a guy that only offers lineouts in Simmons. Penalties went 9 to the Reds, 18 to the Tars, which really sort of made this game, I think, got it out of their reach with just those penalties. Fantasy man of the match was Jack Maddox with 73 points. He had 15 runs for 139 run meters. He bagged himself that try, 3 line breaks, 2 tackle busts, 2 offloads, and he had a brilliant try saver off a McDermott line break as well, which was really good to see. Tait McDermott himself got 61 points with a quick sneaky quick tap try. Harry Wilson got 57 points, and Will Harrison, he had a pretty brilliant game with his kicking and all around the paddock with 58 points.
Yeah, how good was that Tait try where he kind of just calmly walked in as if he wasn't doing anything and then just quick tap and went? It was fantastic.
Yeah, love to see from a halfback.
Yeah, no, very good.
But there was a lot of exciting youngsters in this game, I've got to say. So many good players to watch. Very exciting.
Yeah.
You're right. And I think, Nelson, you covered it with saying how much it meant to everyone. It looked like a grand final celebration.
Yeah, it's so good. It was awesome.
All right, Harry, do you want to take us to the next game?
Yes, absolutely. So the Highlanders playing under the roof against the Crusaders. Highlanders obviously having a couple of tough losses, or a tough loss already last week against the Blues, I think it was. So very good opportunity for them to kind of come back into this one. But not to be. They went down 20 to 40 to the Crusaders. Two tries to 5. The Crusaders leading the way. You had Tom Christie coming back into this game, but there was never any announcement about what injury he had or if he was just being rotated or whatever it was. But he played extremely well, scored a couple of tries himself. Probably not the huge tackle stats that we're used to seeing from him, but otherwise, very, very solid and finished very well twice in the left-hand corner. Josh Dixon had a new injury in this one, looked to have a very serious ankle injury. I think they stretched him off in the game as well. And on top of that, David Avili came off with limping off with an ankle injury just to add to his bad run of luck. And Ethan Blackadder as well never took the field. They subbed him pre-game for Sione Havili, but we don't know exactly why that was.
You can never have enough Havilis on the field.
No, and having said that, Sione Havili I thought was really, really good.
Yeah, so did I.
As well. This one really interesting. A game of two halves. The first half was really, really tightly fought. I thought the Highlanders were outstanding in controlling the Crusaders. Their energy and their line defense, their scramble defense was excellent. Aaron Smith looked like a genius at a couple of different points. But not to be outdone, I think Will Jordan was clearly just the human highlights reel in this one. Ridiculous that you could probably make a 5-minute video of his runs and his impact in a game from this performance alone. He scored a couple of tries himself, set up countless others, just constantly broke the line. He's just going from strength to strength. And I think it was all topped off with that icing on the cake chip and chase at the end of the game where it kind of fell back into his hands and he just accelerated away from the pack. Just completely ridiculous, his skill set and his form at the moment.
He just does not want to be benched. He
No,
does not want to be benched.
And David Havili obviously knows that he's in for a real fight, because I thought Havili was excellent as well. The main difference in this one this week, though, was that David Havili was not able to finish his tries a lot of the time. It looked like the last hurdle, he could have probably set up a couple of tries himself, but kind of threw a couple of passes to ground or ended up holding onto it a little bit too long as well. So that's probably the biggest difference between those two guys in this game. Shannon Frizzell, another big talking point in this game. I think we were obviously really worried about him not being in form, but he scored a try that he just had absolutely no right to score. Busted off a tackle and then ran through 3 men to score it, and then made another 19 tackles himself as well. So huge work rate from him, and good to see him playing well 2 games in a row. And then the final one for me, 53 minutes in, the Highlanders were down a little bit, and Nareki had a 3-on-1. All he had to do was pass the ball. Instead, he held it, got hit by Richie Mo'unga, turned the ball over, and it should have been 7 points. Ended up
it was terrible.
On a 3-point penalty, but I think that was a pretty pivotal moment. It was the only points they scored in the whole second half. So, huge moment in the game. Crusaders absolutely dominant in the match stats. They had 64% possession, 67% territory, 535 run meters to 304. They had 42 tackle busts to 25, 17 line breaks, 17 offloads, just insane. One thing that stood out to me in this one as well was the tackle success for both teams. The Highlanders 76% and the Crusaders 75%. Pretty average on both sides of the ledger there, which you don't see very often from the Crusaders or the Highlanders, to be honest.
That was probably all Shannon Frizzell's runs, though.
That's
the Crusaders.
Yeah.
And missed tackles.
And he missed 5 as well, on top of his 19 that he made. Fantasy man of the match, no surprise, Will Jordan, 94 points. I said he had his 2 tries. He also had 127 metres from his 14 runs, 10 tackle busts himself, 4 line breaks, and a couple of offloads as well. Shannon Frizzell, highest for the Highlanders, 66 points on the back of that try. And the Crusaders, you also had Richie Moe on 68 points. Deserved more considering his try-saving tackle, I think. Vetu Douglas, 61 points. Good to see him finally showing the form that we knew he had this second form of the season. Jack Goodhue, 52 points, 16 runs, just as we started to think if maybe he was the non-performer in the outrageous team. Yeah. And Lester Fengaranuku as well, 50 points himself.
How good did he look as well? He's going to be hard to leave out.
They're all insane.
It's spoiled the Crusaders.
Send them to Australia.
Very good. All right, well, back to the Aussie game. So following that, we had the Brumbies taking on the Rebels in Canberra. The Rebels had got out about a week earlier with the coronavirus outbreak in Victoria, closing down borders and making it very hard for teams. So it was a close game, actually. A lot of surprising things in this one, but the Brumbies ended up taking it out 31-23. So not quite the whitewash we were expecting. But they did end up with 5 tries to 2 on the ledger. Returning in this one, we had no one returning in this one. It was round 1 for the Super Rugby AU. But injuries we had, Falaufa Inga looks like he broke his nose. He took quite a significant front-on head knock. I think it was friendly fire to Tom Cusack, but blood streaming down quite a while after the game, still had it covered with towels. So we'll have to watch this space to see if he's returning. That will be eager on fantasy managers' minds. Rebels really missed Izzy Nasarani and Anaru Rangi. They're quite pivotal parts of the team, although Jordan Ulisi definitely stepped up. Finally, Prince that was promised delivered on what we've been waiting for. This was Tamua's 100th cap, and so he was cheered out by the whole of the Canberra Stadium, which was good, and he looked quite composed in his performance for the Rebels. All right, points that were interesting in this one. The Rebels scrum was just unbelievable. You wouldn't have guessed it, but they absolutely took it to the Brumbies, and it had a lot to do with the starting tight head, Tony Faumasili. There you go. Huge man who we've talked about before, who's a prop who can also play number 8. Very mobile and versatile. He did keep trying to make pilfer penalties, but he kept getting penalised for not holding his own body weight. But he was massive in the scrums and was just dismantling the Brumbies.
The bloke's an absolute beast. But it was interesting as well. The Brumbies, it was a back and forth with the forward packs. The Brumbies dominated the rolling maul themselves. They were responsible for 3 tries off the back of that. Some brilliant play off the back of those scrums as well. The Rebels then gave them a dose of their own medicine. We all know that the Brumbies can score rolling maul try. The Rebels did the same thing from 10 metres out, getting all their backs involved to help get it over the line. It's pretty good to see.
That's it. And the Brumbies don't get rolling maul tries scored against them. So that was pretty huge seeing that happen. Jordan Ulisi was really giving them lip for that when he dotted down for that. For this one, I think it was interesting. The Rebels are normally let down by their forward pack. It's their backs that they normally have these all-star backs. But this game, it kind of felt the other way around. Their forwards really pulled above their weight, and their backs just couldn't seem to get the ball out to Kellaway or Corriabiti. They kind of didn't really see them feature very much in this game. Dane Halapeti eventually got it down for a try, but it was just, I don't know, the Rebels' backs just couldn't quite get it together.
I think that the Brumbies had people all over the paddock that were stepping up for them, and obviously that's pretty going to be the difference in this one. Brumbies, they had Folau Fainga standing up, usual suspects, Joe Powell, Noel Alessio, but it was interesting, Mac Hansen, I think he really came into his own in that second half. And he was just busting tackers at will. I think he knows there's someone pretty good, Tom Banks, waiting in the ranks to come back through after his injury. So it was pretty interesting to see.
He did. He grew in confidence in that second half, and he just attacked at will, and just I thought he was brilliant. But going into the match stats on this one, possession and territory pretty even. The meters, the Brumbies 422 to 271, so they definitely smacked them there, but not as much as they did in the tackle bus, 27 to 9. Huge difference there. Line breaks 11 to 2, and offloads, the Rebels had 4 to 1. Tackle success, Brumbies 93%, Rebels 77%. That tells a lot of the story. That's why those tries got through. Penalties, a lot of penalties. We mentioned the scrums. I think, very early on, the Rebels had forced something like 6 scrum penalties. It was crazy. No, just not enough in the tank. The Brumbies kind of just more composed, eventually got themselves together after a strong Rebels start. But the Rebels' usual story. Couldn't bring it back in to the end of the game. Yep. So, next one.
Fantasy man of the match, Joey Powell.
Yeah, thank you.
54 points for him. I thought he had an outstanding game. He had a try off the back of one of those rolling mauls where he took a dart himself, a try assist, an offload, a clean break, made his usual mammoth amount of passes, 67 passes, and just looked good all around the park. So really, really impressed with him. Noel Alessio was closely in behind and was the actual man of the match, I believe, at the game as well. 51 points from him, played quite well.
A few gun runs from him.
Muirhead scored 50 points on the back of that awesome first try 2 minutes into the game. One of the slickest set-piece tries I've seen from a lineup for some time. Just brilliantly played. Everything from Allan Alaalatoa to holding the man back to the inside ball from Folau Fainga. Just awesome.
Yeah, dummy runner line from TK, and then brilliant inside pass from Folau,
So good. And the highest was Jordan Ulisi, 43 points for the Rebels.
Excellent. All right. Last game for the round was the Chiefs and the Hurricanes on Sunday. Chiefs did not win this one. They went down 18 to 25, 2 teams that were desperate for their first win of Super Rugby Aotearoa. Returning in this one, we had Tupo Vai from the Chiefs' young lock, returning from an illness. Solomon Alavalo returning also from some illness, and he couldn't have been keen enough to see him back on the field. Geordie Barrett's coming back from his shoulder injury that Harry Nelson had diagnosed as difficult to say when he was going to come back, but he looked fire, and he did not look like he was shying away from any contact. So he looks great. Injuries in this one. So not a very important man for the Chiefs at all, but Anton Leonard-Brown. He was pulled midweek with concussion. So, yeah, that was a pretty significant loss for them. Natoya Arkoi, concussion as well in the game. He got KO'd. He got knocked the hell out.
100%.
Man, he did not know where he was. I think he did pass his concussion test post game, but
Yeah, he was walking around and healthy. I don't know if he passed his test though.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he did.
Sorry, that's right. He looked all right after the game, but he didn't pass the test to continue playing during the game. That's right. And then Fraser Armstrong, he had a knee, what looked like a knee injury. He went down a few times and then eventually couldn't carry on. And Scotty Scrafton, old mate, getting the double yellows and then the red card. So it's very. Some will say it was soft. What ended up in a red card, but look, it was repeated infringements. He just was unlucky. All right, Geordie Barrett, mate, he was back. His boot is insane. Obviously, the talking point is the 60-odd metre penalty goal he took just before half-time, which he nailed. But apart from that, I mean, 12 minutes in, he attempted a drop goal from 48 metres out. He was just like, why not? I got the time and space. He sent it flying. He did miss. But,
he got the distance.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. But otherwise, just the difference it made for territory, like even territory and for penalties. When he was kicking to move them downfield for a line out, mate, he was rocketing it down, 50, 60 metres into the corner.
But I reckon as a playmaker as well, he took so much pressure off Garden Basher, but basically didn't matter who was playing 10. He just
I agree.
He was awesome.
Yeah, no, he makes a massive difference in that team. So good to see him back and firing.
Yeah.
Reed Prinsep. Harry's like, shut up a lot of people by making 21 tackles. He's the what we call him, the B grade Vetu Douglas workman of the Hurricanes. So he gets through a lot of work. But would you pick him in your fantasy team / care about him at all? Not really.
If he's making 21 tackles, you would.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Maybe in your fantasy team, Nels. So I like to win fantasy. But look, moving on. DMAC, fantastic. Oh, yeah. How good was that cover tackle on Ben Lamb? Wow. 1-on-1, sprinting across, took him without. I mean, Ben Lamb is not an easy man to stop. And DMAC, absolutely try saver. Fantastic. Heaps of penalties in this one. Lots of offside penalties. So apart from the breakdown, they're really cracking down on the offside line. Just really forcing players to take that step back. They've really decided that's important. The Chiefs just unable to kind of create anything, it seemed like. We talked about DMAC running the ball a bit more. Alaalatoa, when he came on in the second, he certainly started getting involved. I think he took it wasn't a pick and drive, but he took a forward hit up. The minute he got on, he just wanted the ball in hand. But yeah, they just seemed, the Hurricanes' defense was fantastic throughout this game. But they just seemed unable to come up with any answers, the Chiefs. I think the telling stat for me was the amount of tackles. The Chiefs made 95 tackles in this game. The Hurricanes made 170. It's crazy. Last points from this one for me was TJ Perinara. He played 10 for the last 20 minutes. So he's kind of really slotting into that. We've mentioned that before. But
they must have lost all confidence in Fletcher Smith.
Yeah, they should have.
I know. Who did they have on the bench? I forget. They had two backs. I can't remember.
I'll check.
Very good. All right. Well, the match stats. Chiefs had 58% possession and 63% territory. It was theirs to lose. The run meters, they topped that, 517, 404. They had less tackle bust, though, 22 to 28, but plenty of tackle bust in this one. The Hurricanes also had more line breaks, 15 to the Chiefs' 11. Chiefs had more turnovers, 10 to 8. More offloads, 10 to 8. And their Achilles heel was the Chiefs conceded 16 turnovers to the Hurricanes' 8. So they conceded double the amount of turnovers. The Chiefs won 17 lineouts, and the Canes, they won 8, but they lost 4. So significant. The main thing in this was the 2 yellow cards. So it was pretty hard to win a game. Someone off the field for most of the time. The second yellow resulted in a red, but it was only in the last 10 minutes
Yeah, and they
anyway. So
obviously still managed to pull it off, which is pretty awesome.
yeah, so huge effort from them. Fantasy stats: Lachlan Boshier, 65 points, fantasy man of the match. Bagged himself a try, a couple of carries, a couple of line breaks, 1 tackle bust, 7 lineouts taken. So he really was, I guess, the unsuspecting lineout weapon for them. Stole a lineout as well, won a turnover. Probably got penalised for another few since they're really cracking down on that, but can't remember. Ben Lamb and Cobus Van Vyk, the 2 wingers for the Hurricanes, 49 points each. Aaron Crude and Geordie Barrett, 48 points. And Artie Sevilla and TJ Perinara with 43. Artie starting to look a little bit more lively, which was good. All right, let's kick on to the main course, previewing Fantasy Super Rugby 2.0 Round 2. So in Round 2, we have buys to the Chiefs and the Brumbies. So I know in our league, a lot of fantasy managers are going to run into quite a few problems. I suspect many others will as well. Who wants to kick us off in the first fixture for this one?
I will. There's going to be hopefully some returning Anarurangi with his knees in Sarani from his hammy. And who knows at the moment about Angus Blythe with his concussion. These are 2 sides that were sitting in the middle of that table for the Aussies before this coronavirus kicked off. But it'll be a ding-dong battle here. I reckon they're both pretty keen for it. The Reds are pumped after their last one, and the Rebels almost toppled the Brumbies. It's going to be played at Brookvale in Sydney's Northern Beaches. So right around the corner from Cargie, with 3,500 people allowed to attend. Surely they're not going to fill out 3,500 people with the numbers that were viewing the games on the weekend.
I don't know, actually. That's kind of Northern Beaches rugby heartland, and I think because it's like the only fixture of rugby that they'll get up there. Maybe it will. I don't know. Bought my ticket already, you know.
I'm hoping that we see Pony Falmosa-Ili versus Daniela Tupou. They're both tight heads, but they're both massive boys in their scrum. The Rebels scrum was so good last week against the Brumbies, and so it's going to be really good to see these guys going head-to-head if he gets another crack. Harry Hooper, he didn't really do that much other than some good scrummaging, so we'd like to see him get his hand on the ball a little bit more. Yes, I know we're talking huge chunks just mainly about props, but
Fantastic.
we've also, is he going to do enough to hold that spot from JP Smith, who does do a fair bit more around the paddock? The Rebels backline, they need to sort out their shit recently. If there's generally the shining light for the Rebels, and they have such talent there, they've got so much talent even on the bench and guys that don't get a run. I mean, if they're not using Kellaway and Koroibete, 2 lethal attack weapons, then, I mean, you're going to find yourself very hard-pressed to close out these matches. Tait McDermott, I don't know who said this, but he's the golden snitch. Which one of you boys was that?
I put that in there, mate. Isn't that the Harry Potter thing, the golden snitch, mate?
No, man, I agree with you. I like it.
I said it's like he's covered in spiders. He's been covered in spiders, then lit on fire, mate. No one can touch him, and he's lightning quick.
He is awesome, and we all think he's probably going to be the Wallabies scrum half. He's just such a good player, and you've got to be awake whenever he's got his hands on the ball. Hegarty missed a few kicks, and Jock took over and capitalised and helped win the Reds that game. So do we see Jock take back over the kicking role now, or is he still there just as a bit of a cover if Hegarty is missing his kicks? Early on in the year, they were talking about Jock as a potential kicker, and the main reason was he had a bit of a groin injury and stiffness, which was holding him out, but Hegarty's really sort of held that kicking reins down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
I think he's generally pretty accurate as well, right?
Yeah, he's been pretty accurate, but Jock had two important chances late in the game and took them both after Hegarty was...
Both gimmies, it should be said.
Doesn't matter, still needed to step up. Diagunu, he was an absolute freak last week and is clearly keen to be playing footy. He wants to be staying in Australia. He's been offered contracts overseas and said he wants a Wallabies jersey. So it's going to be interesting. You've got 2 Fijians, him and Koroibete, to see who's more keen for this jersey. But they're both playing similar styles, getting involved wherever they can, even off the back of rucks and mauls. So this one's going to be an interesting game, boys. How do we see it going?
Oh, look, as long as I think with Dalguna, as long as he doesn't get himself a red card, by doing something stupid again, he'll be right. But he was electric. I thought he was just. Corey Betty couldn't seem to get himself involved for the Rebels, but Dalguna just found a way. He just went to where the ball was. You know what I mean? What I think is going to be really exciting, something that I really liked was we talk about with the Springboks, the bomb squad coming off the bench. Just the having these huge guys come off the bench. The Rebels had 3 massive blokes come off the bench. They had Trevor Hosea, Esai Hangana, and Rob Leota. Now I don't know if you've noticed yet, but Trevor Hosea and Esai Hangana have they're now maybe 20, 22. But they have filled out and been put through some proper gym programs. They had these 3 enormous dudes come on and just start hammering away at everyone. So I would be terrified to have them coming on late in the game. And if they get Izzy Nazarani back as well, the Rebels, wow, it's going to be tough work in the forwards, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Josh Kemeny get a debut. It'd be good to see, maybe Michael Wells plays 6. And then, as you said, Nasarani comes back into number 8. And I think that's going to be a better rounded back row for them as well.
That's it.
I think the Reds are going to take it though. From me,
so do I.
I think the Reds are going to edge this one here.
I do too, and I think, look, whilst we were talking about the Rebels scrum, it was fantastic against the Brumbies last week. The Red scrum was fantastic against the Tars. I think the Red scrum will have them as well. So, but going to be a good game.
And I just think it's hard not having a home base as well for the Rebels. It's going to get harder and harder for them while they spend week after week on the road.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely a factor. Excellent. All right. Well, the next game after that is going to be an absolute cracker. 2 undefeated Kiwi teams, the Crusaders and the Blues. Harry, do you want to preview this one for us?
Absolutely. Of course I do. Obviously, the 2 form teams in Super Rugby Aotearoa. Carl Turinui is the only potential returning player that we haven't already seen a lot of from his hamstring injury. I know he played club rugby in round 3 during the Blues bye. Not sure any details about that game in terms of what his performance was like, but expected to actually be running and fit. And then obviously Georgie Bridge, who had a rest last week from the Crusaders backline, very likely to be available for selection again. And I say available for selection because you can't guarantee any of these guys getting a spot because everyone is so good.
Surely the only person we can guarantee is Will Jordan.
You wish, mate. You wish. Both forward packs have been really quite dominant in the competition, especially through the middle of the park in the ruck and mauls. So that the big question is obviously who's going to come out on top of that. To me, I think the Blues need to be dominant in the forward pack more than the Crusaders do. I think the Blues really need to find a way to slow down the Crusaders' quick ball at the moment because they're getting such quick ball out of Drummond last week and Bryn Hall prior to that, and their backs are just far too electric when they do get that attacking front football. So I think that will be a really big telling factor for them. So speaking of rucks and mauls as well, Blake Gibson, I know he missed a couple of weeks ago, but they've long thought that he was a captain and vice captain of that club as well. What do you boys reckon? Is there any chance that he can come in and break up the form back row for the Blues, which is Ioane, Hoskins, Tutu, and Papali'i?
Zero chance.
I'm leaning towards no, but I mean, Ioane we haven't seen enough of for a long period of time. If they think Blake Gibson's a leadership role, Papali'i's stuck his hand up for a broader period of time. So I think you could see those 2 linking up with Tutu, mainly just to cut his.
Yeah, I talked about it at the start of the season. Blake Gibson was co-captain last year. They dropped him from co-captaincy because they went, hold on, we can't have a co-captain that we're not going to put on the field. You know what I mean? Like Papali'i's here and he's here to stay. He's been incredible, Papali'i. I think Tutu has been so good. It's like overshadowed how good Papali'i has been. But
and now Akira Ioane is making his tackles and playing well as well. So
and he's fit and he's
good form.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're bang on. I think apart from the forwards really needing to show some dominance and slow down that Crusaders ball. I think the telling point for this game is going to be the second half. I mean, the Highlanders, we said, for example, they played fantastic in that first half, but no one seems to be able to stay with the Crusaders to the full 80 minutes. And if anything, one of the biggest problems for the Blues over the last couple of years has been putting out an 80-minute performance. So this is going to be...
They're definitely fitter than ever. They've got their fittest player of all time on Bodie Barrett. So definitely going to be fit enough for it, you would think.
That's true.
In the forward pack as well, the lineouts I thought originally looking at this game was going to be somewhere the Blues could attack, but the Crusaders have actually only lost 2 of 28 lineouts in the last couple of games. So after their first game wobbles, they've really shored that up. So there's really not any opportunity there for them, which is, I guess, a bit of a chink in the armour for the Blues kicking game, because obviously they've benefited a lot from a Terra Black's long kicking game and Beauden Barrett's, short kicking game to an extent as well. And having a strong line, it has been a really key weapon for them. So I think Crusaders attacking line out and defensive line out. And then on the flip side of that, Richie Mo'unga's kicking game as well is going to be a really challenging hurdle for the Blues to get through, that they've actually really enjoyed a big advantage in their games previously this year that they've played against the other New Zealand opposition. We talked about the backline from the Crusaders. What do you do with the embarrassment of riches? My gut feeling is David Havili limped off with that ankle injury. Doesn't matter how minor it is. You just give him the week to get better. And then that allows you to bring George Bridge back into one of the wings, Sever Reece in there, Will Jordan at fullback, and Lester Fangaranuku goes back to the bench. That's my gut feel.
Yeah. It sounds tough bringing back the current All Blacks wingers into your starting team.
Absolutely. And the last thing for me is I think the Blues defence has been a lot improved, but they did concede 3 tries to both the Highlanders and the Hurricanes, whose attack is definitely not as strong as the Crusaders. So I think that's a little bit of a worry for me in this game. The Crusaders have only scored 13, 20 and 25 points so far. So the Blues are going to have to score, I would say, significantly more points than that, 25 to 30 points, to have a chance to win. And they're going to have to do that on the back of an improved defensive effort as well. And doing it in a way that they haven't won their game so far without that dominant set piece and kicking game. So it's going to be a big challenge for them.
Hang on. So who are we calling? Is anyone prepared to say the Blues? I'm going to back the Crusaders to take this one. Nels, so you're going to be the man to say it?
Okay, well, he says nothing. I'm going to say straight up Crusaders. Sorry.
Look, I want to be the man to say the Blues, and I don't think this is the week.
Yeah, I called you because you picked it last time. You were the first one to call it out a week or two ago. But
that's correct.
I can't do it. Even with 2 Ioanis on the field, I just can't do it against those Crusaders.
Neither can I.
Fantastic. All right, the third game of the week. Third game or fourth game? I've lost track of where we're up to.
Mate.
Third game. Very good. The Tars and the Force. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Western Force back in Super Rugby. It's going to be a big question of who the hell is in the Force this week. But we'll take our guess at who we think will be the starting 15 in just a second. So returning for the Tars this week, we could have Jake Gordon, Carmichael Hunt, Lalakai Fuketi, and Tom Robertson.
Now, are you sure they're all back? Because I know that they missed round 1, but I don't know that they're definitely back.
I was just about to say all missed round 1 with small injuries, but we didn't get enough information on the depth of those. So I know for Gordon and Hunt were both hammies. Robertson, I forget what Robertson was actually.
He was a back, and Fuketi was a hammy as well.
Okay, yeah. So no, I'm not sure at all. But I think I remember the commentators saying Jake Gordon is very likely to be back, but I don't know on the others. I think if Carmichael Hunt is close to being fit, you'd probably play him, and that's not necessarily all his own fault. But Joey Walton in his debut, unfortunately, was a very unlucky us. He did not have a very good game. It just seemed like every ball was just not quite perfectly in front of him. He just put a few balls down.
Yeah.
Gave away a few penalties.
He definitely wasn't helped by passing, but he definitely he put a few boys down, as you said. He was a guy that in preseason trials, he showed a lot of promise, a lot of go forward, but just didn't seem to have that ability to impart himself in this one on the weekend.
For sure. What I did like, and what I don't think will change, the back three. That young back three, James Ram, Mark Nwinganitoase, and Jack Maddox, they were fantastic.
Rags, I know he's a winger, but you don't need to call him Nwinganitoase, mate.
It's in his name, mate. It's in his
Not
blood.
his
It's in his
name.
name.
It's
It
not
is.
his name.
No, you touched on it in the review. Yeah, that Maddox, he just looks at home in the fullback jersey. That just looks like, and we've always known that's his preferred position and probably where he's best. But Gotti looked good, and his ability to just slot in there at 10, to speed up the attack and just provide another option. He just looked fantastic there.
Brilliant.
I really like James Ram, and I think one thing we didn't really see much of is he has an absolute weapon of a boot. So he can kick it 60, 65 metres on the fly as well. So he didn't get much of a chance to exhibit that, but that's going to be extremely useful. Some of the Tars I feel have kind of lacked in recent years. There's been a few solid boots out back. And particularly with the Australian games on the weekend, the new 50-20 rules, the 22-50 rules and whatever, you saw a lot of times they were going for that. That can make a huge difference, those games. So, very important. All right. Was Will Harris's performance good enough to keep Jack Dempsey off on the bench? What do we think?
I liked him. I think I'd like to see more of him. It's probably a week that's a good week to do it against the Force.
I agree. I hope it is, but it was a little bit of a mixed bag from him, but there was plenty of positives.
I agree.
Very good. I don't think we can see Swinton dropped after his performance. I mean, yes, he didn't score that well in fantasy, but I just think what he was bringing to the team was fantastic. Just the hits and the energy, the presence.
We just want to see more of that.
Absolutely. But so otherwise, we don't think much will change for the Tars. Getting to the Force. The Force dominated the NRC last year. It was 41-3. Was that the grand final score? Because that's huge.
They won 8 of 9 throughout the season, only losing to New South Wales, which has a few of the guys, New South Wales country, a few of the guys in this Waratahs team.
Absolutely. In our draft last week, obviously the Force had the bye, but one Force player did manage to get picked up, and it's Kyle Godwin, a player we've all long liked. But anyway, let's pump through what we expect the Force first starting 15 to be. So in the forwards, I'll do the forwards, and why don't one of you take the backs? Angus Wagner, starter prop. Andrew Reddy, probably over Heath Testman, old Heath Testman, who's kind of just there as an old head. Kieran Longbottom or Tom Sherman at tight head. John Bardul or Jeremy Thrush to take out one of the locking positions, kind of older, more experienced locks. Fergus Lee Warner, someone Nelson's touched on before, possibly a young, exciting lock. The back row, definitely Stander will be in there at 8, and we're thinking probably Henry Stowers and Kane Kateka.
Yep. For the backs, there's no doubt Captain Ian Pryor is going to be taking that 9 jersey. We'd love to see Jono Lance come in at 10, but he's had very limited time with the squad. Nick Eustace is another young player. I think he was at the Brumbies previously, who's quite good. I think he'll get that starting spot at number 10. I think on the left wing, Jonah Placid, I'm a big fan of Jonah Placid, but also Brad Lacey is a great attacking player, so it'll be out of those two fighting for that spot. Kyle Godwin, he's got limited time, but he is Kyle Godwin, so it's out of him and Henry Tafu at 12.
When we say limited time, I think part of that is that I know with Jono Lance, he's still in the 14-day quarantine until maybe last week. Yeah,
Lance and Godwin both were.
Yeah, so it's been hard to train in quarantine.
It is, but I mean, Henry Tafu is a good player, but I guess we'll see. And then if Henry Tafu doesn't play 12 there, good chance we'll see him filling in at 13 with Marcel Bracchi or AJ Alaalatoa as the backup for that 13 jersey. Brian Ralston will be on the right wing. He's an electric, quite exciting young player. It will be interesting to see how he goes at Super Rugby level, but he's another guy from Aussie Under-20s who you should keep your eye on. Jack McGregor at fullback, likes to get himself involved with ball in hand, got a good kick on him. I think he's a lock-in for that 15 jersey.
And has a fantastic mullet.
and he does have
Majestic.
a Jack Goodhue-esque mullet.
He's a like more of like a 10-15 mold as well for those that don't really know him. I think he could be quite a good player for them in terms of fantasy.
Yeah, I think so.
Fantastic. Harry, are you trying to force someone to pick him up? Is that
This
the
is
play here?
this is the thing that everyone in Australia is sort of debating whether the Force will beat anyone, and if they do beat someone, it's probably going to be the Tars. Can you guys see it happening?
Look, no, I can't without seeing any games have been played, but I know that they're definitely going to beat the salaries of the other Super Rugby teams. I can tell you that much. So,
Harry?
Uh, it's we really don't have any form line to get a good idea. But no, I would be surprised if they could jump to Super Rugby level and immediately take a win. I know Morgan Turinui said you hope that the level of Australian Super Rugby is enough above NRC that they will struggle to live up to that level, that jump. But I kind of also want to see them play really well. So
if we're not seeing the likes of John O'Lands, Carl Goodwin even get a start for them as well this week because of the limited time, the team's not as good as their NRC team. They lost a lot of their top players, went to other provinces to actually get the Super Rugby gigs. So if they do beat the Tars here, it's quite concerning. I think we'll see a lot of those young Tars players going again, and they seem really, really hungry. And if they don't come out and sort of get interested for this game again, it'll be pretty disappointing.
yep, fair. All right, well, into the last game previewing for round 2 of Fantasy Super Rugby 2.0, the Hurricanes and the Highlanders. I think this is at home in the Cake Tin in Wellington. Harry, did you want to take this one out, or we're back onto Nelson? Yep.
Yeah, so Nehe Milner-Skudder was targeting this game on his revised date. So obviously, it's been a long time coming for him. So I'm not too confident at the start of the week until I hear something in the paper saying that he's in the starting side. But hopefully we see him, and they do need a right winger with Sam Gilbert out with a confirmed ACL injury now. So he'll be done for the season. And Josh Ioane as well was apparently touch and go leading up to round 4 and then missed out because of his groin injury. So I'm kind of expecting that he goes to 10, pushes Mitch Hunt to 15, and then obviously that will mean that Michael Collins drops back to the bench. Mitch Hunt's slowly growing on me. His running game, his turn of speed is definitely better than I had previously thought it was. But obviously, I think having Josh Ioane at 10 is the obvious option, and Mitch Hunt a good second fly half at the back of the line there and just slotting in when he's needed. So I think that'll hopefully work well for them, and it'll mean that the Highlanders have a lot more wit on their attack as well, which is going to be exciting to see. And hopefully it means that Jonah Nareki can get a lot more ball. Despite the stuff up at the end of midway through the last game, he still really excites me, and he does a lot of good things as well. So more ball in hand for him, the better, I think.
Yep.
This is probably a much harder one to pick than we would have thought a week ago, because we all thought the Hurricanes were going to be the bottom team, but then they dispatched the Chiefs pretty comfortably. So with Jordan Barrett back, I think that he's probably the key to the Hurricanes, and Artie Sevilla's kind of lift in form as well. Trying to work out how you break down the Highlanders' defence, which is, in my opinion, really, really good. They scramble well. Their line D is good, as I've said in the past. I feel like the only forward who is an obvious chance to break through that line is Artie if he's in form. Otherwise, I feel like you need Geordie Barrett doing what he did last week, which is slotting it at first receiver and throwing the long ball over the top and trying to use the width on the game. So I think it will be more challenging this week for the Hurricanes to score points than what it was against the Chiefs. And for that reason, I think Highlanders are probably the team to beat in this one.
Yeah, look, I'll have to back you on that. I think they've just been in a rich vein of form, but also Shannon Frizzell and McArdle too. They've been fantastic. And if Artie's not on his absolute A game, the forwards are going to get the upper hand in the Highlanders, I think.
I think we're predicting showers at this stage, which is nothing new for Wellington as well. So I'm thinking back to that Blues Highlanders games where it was absolutely pouring, and I thought the Highlanders dealt with that really well, with the
Yeah,
exception
sure.
of Scott Gregory, and I don't think that there's any risk of getting at 15.
Yeah, no, I think the Highlanders will take this one out, but I think the Hurricanes will give up, put up a good fight.
And it should be said that Josh Dixon probably gone. Jack Wheaton, I think, is probably the most likely replacement. And from memory, I think he has a bit of an engine and makes a lot of tackles.
Yep.
He's good, and that should see Selby Rickett find his way onto the bench, who also I think has been pretty good. So,
yeah, great. Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that rounds out our main course and takes us into dessert. So dessert, we're just going to kind of wing it a little bit, but a little OG League update. So I don't think we usually post an OG League a blog post with the results of our draft and whatnot. We have been a little overwhelmed this weekend. Harry and Nelson have also been away at it was Mum's birthday over the weekend, was it? Family holiday for that.
Yeah, we were down the coast, and a beautiful little spot with, I mean, it's middle of the winter, but it was nice and sunny, and still did a few walks around the beach, and I walked Harry in tennis today, so it's pretty good.
Must be nice. No, very good. All right, so in our draft, I guess look, we've already touched on Harry and I look like finding our usual places up the top, and Nelson is picking up where he left off. In our the look of our results this week, our results to be finalised probably tonight.
No, I think you can be pretty confident, mate. You had a pretty good week.
I did. That's what happens when you pick the best players, Nels. Is you generally win fantasy fixtures. So
apparently, yeah.
Take note. But anyway, what we wanted to talk about are any surprising picks in our draft. So, Harry, I think of particular note in terms of early picks, Sinker made a couple of interesting picks in it. 12th and the pick after that, Harry. What were those?
Yeah, so NSYNC picking at 5th. First pick, pretty run-of-the-mill, Braden Enor, but he's gone 12th overall. James O'Connor at fly half. I can confirm that James O'Connor was the 6th overall fly half of the competition week. But he's
of 8.
Of 8, yes. So not a great pick from him there, but don't worry, he backed it up with Will Harris, the debutant player from the Waratahs, who's unlikely to get that many starts this year, and didn't get any points out of him. But don't worry, he decided then he would pick up a halfback of his 4th pick, Brad Weber, but he'd already missed out on Tait McDermott and TJ Perinara, so didn't get that much from him. So he's thought, oh, you know what, consolidate, get an outside back. Andrew Kellaway didn't touch the ball. So a weak tight 5 from him and 280 points I think he's sitting on for preliminary. So about half of what you need for an attacking bonus point.
So some of those were crazy picks. Some of those a bit unlucky. Kellaway has been brilliant. James O'Connor has been pretty good, but very early to pull a gun on someone like James O'Connor for sure.
That's it. Very good. Another one of the we were saying questionable picks. Look, I'll throw myself in there. The one pick mistake that I made panicked later on in the draft. I don't know. It was pretty far down, but I picked up Chase Tia. Just this was where I hadn't done enough research. I thought Geordie might still be out for a couple of weeks, and Chase had been, I thought, the form player for the Hurricanes. He had been.
Yeah, it was great having a bit of a chuckle when you picked him up just because we predicted him not playing. And in sync as well, he picked up CFS Chris Fayaway Saltia, who not only was already named to not be starting, but is very unlikely to be starting, I think, in the short term, especially after Daugunu played as well as he did.
And just because it's going to make me look really good, why don't we just, for our listeners, we'll just go through our top 4 picks and see who came out on top. So I'll kick us off then. I started off with Richie Mo'unga, then Cody Taylor, Artie Sevilla, and Will Jordan were my top 4 picks. Harry, how'd you go?
Damien McKenzie, Marino Makieletu'u, Harry Wilson, and Will Harrison.
And Nels, bring it home.
I don't have this in front of me. Are we saying the 4 first picks we made?
I can tell you your top 3.
Hoskins, Tutu, Tait McDermott, Angus Bell, and Caleb Clark.
I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, they're all looking pretty good, to be honest. But you did pick up Caleb Clark on a bye. which just stung you.
That's
definitely stung me this
remember,
week.
Nelson's always about building. Remember, we talked about this at the start of the season this year. He likes to first of all, he doesn't like picking first. That's just, the first pick, getting who you want, that is a real drag. But then he likes to come in last in the first week, just so when there's free agents available for pickup, he has the pick of the litter. This is always the plan.
Yeah, to be fair, I thought my team was quite a solid team. I had Hoskins Tutu and Caleb
That should have
Clark
been a
on.
red flag for you immediately, Nels, that you think was good.
Yeah, I had Hoskins Tutu and Caleb Clark on my bench, thinking I'll take one of the form in forwards and backs, knowing that they've got a bye this week, so I know they're not going to have a bye in the next few weeks, and they're both going to be definite starters. So I thought for myself, that was going to secure me for a good chunk of time, leaving myself the ability to cover it. And I did cover it, but apparently did not cover it well, with Sean Wainui getting me 5 points, getting desperate, pick up Michael Collins and him getting me 1 point. And the worst mistake I quite clearly made was I backed Joey Walton, who got a total of -2.
I think it was it was certainly an interesting draft with having a lot less players, and also it just felt like everyone was equally underprepared for this.
This was tough.
It just not a lot of lead time in with a lot of information there, really.
The whole thing of a huge chunk of your players potentially not playing the next week was something that threw most people off, because although, I mean, you were looking at what you could do to have a full starting team this week, and I think I was one of maybe two players or something like that, two managers that had full teams this week, not if you check my scores, but you really wanted to have a starting side, but a lot of people are going to be really found out, I think, come trade night on Thursday.
Yeah, I was just in rounding it out this conversation on our draft. I was explaining to Blake, a fellow. He has one podcast here, the Weatherman. Wanted to know how the draft went down, and I said, look, my strategy going into this one, the only preparation I really did and really focused on was very unlike me. No picking with the heart. So Akira Ioane didn't go for quite a while. I let him go past me too many times. But all I did was I looked at the buys very closely. And so I noted that there's 10 teams playing in Fantasy Super Rugby 2.0, and 4 of them have 2 buys. So I didn't want to pick any players that had 2 buys, because that's 2 weeks out of 7 weeks they're not playing. And I started from there, and I have very few buy issues. So in the coming weeks, I'm hoping that really pays off for me.
Yeah, I think that's the safest bet really at this point. The tricky thing is, a lot of players are going to be pushed in and out. You've already seen it in the Kiwi conference, and I think we're probably going to see something similar in Australian rugby, where if the team's not named, you've got a 50% chance that your player is going to be starting, because they've just been chopping and changing in that, especially this week.
That's it. And it was interesting. It was interesting you wanted to pick a lot more Australian players, because with the Australian teams only playing Australian teams, you figure they might go better. Whereas the Kiwi teams only playing Kiwi teams, it's tougher. But also some of these new laws in the Aussie competition, meaning it's going to be a bit more of a free-flowing game.
I've just got one question. Lockie Swinton got 0 points for me. What more do you have to do than dominate so many people in tackles, have a clear line break try assist, make 7 of your own runs, play 80 minutes?
Stop getting penalised, really. That's probably the main one.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, anyway, look, that's a bit of a rough do-over of how our draft went down, and some things we thought were interesting there. But why don't we round out the pod tonight with a little quick platform update. So I think Hugh's actually going to write up a post, maybe detailing a little bit more exactly what the plans are this week. So thank you very much for everyone for engaging with us, sending us through your questions, any bugs you've found, features you want to see most. Really appreciate it, and we love the feedback. It's helping us figure out what exactly to do. And huge props to Hugh for putting in, pretty much working the whole weekend last weekend. Yeah, just slogging away and getting back to you. Apart from @Draft Rugby, our Twitter account, we have @Draft Rugby Dev. and Hugh posts dev updates there. So as he fixes new things, little videos of what he's fixed and new features you can get after. And he gets back to, he's been getting back to everyone, which has been great. So thanks for getting after us there. But look, the plan roughly at the moment is to, we're trying to, it's basically the battle of fixing a few bugs versus rolling out new features. So we're trying to fix any of the last kind of invitation and team list bugs. So players in your team list. The first thing we're going to do tonight is fix the player positions. So we receive the stats, and they have set players in positions that, you know, whether they are usually a lock or usually a back rower or usually a fly half or whatever. But and we normally override a few positions when they get them wrong. But this season, because of the very few amount of players that we have, we've said that players have to be listed as the position in which they took the field this weekend. So particularly for all your Australian players, whatever position they played this weekend is the position they will be listed at on Draft Rugby.
There's a few different comps that are using our system that didn't necessarily read or listen to everything we said, and they've got a few of their players playing out of position. James O'Connor playing in outside backs, Will Harris playing in locks. The way that we're probably going to see this moving forward is that you will be able to bank your score from what your team was this week. It's the only way we can do it is you've made that mistake, but if you've made that mistake, your whole little, I suppose, 8 managers probably have made that mistake, but you can't do the same thing moving forward. So you're going to have to drop Will Harris and not have him playing as a lock next week. He won't sit in our system as a lock next week. So moving forward, he's going to have to be in the back row.
And it's not, to be honest, it's not that hard to change considering the huge turnover in players. Even if you scored it yourself externally and then ended up putting it in a couple of weeks, no doubt you'll have to rotate those players within a couple of weeks anyway. So I don't think it'll be a massive hurdle, to be honest.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
True. And in terms of a features point of view, the way we're going about it is we're trying to give you as much customization as possible so that, like as in your ability to manually just add and remove your players. We're not trying to lock your teams, things like that, so that you can deal with it and bear with us as we get these features working, fix these bugs, and releasing more and more features on the platform. The most important thing is that, it's not, don't worry. I think some managers are concerned about, week one's now done. How are we going to be able to go back and fix things? Look, the players, all of the players will have scores that are locked in. You'll be able to see all of their scores for every week, and you'll be able to just go back and select the team in which you had that week, or change the team in which you had that week, in order to get the correct fantasy scores as we release the table coming up, and whatnot. I think so in terms of first features we're doing right now, we're fixing positions. Then we're going to implement the lineup. So you're starting 15 versus your two bench players, which means that you'll get a total team score of just your starting 15 players. And then we're going to implement the league table. So the results of your fixtures. So I played Nabung this week. That's it. Getting a shout out to beating Nabung this week. It was a fantastic feeling. And I will get 4 league points for that win.
Yeah. And
so
having said that, like the one thing that, speaking to Hugh, our website engineer, has been saying is that the easy way to get past this at the moment is we're just going to give you guys as much customization ability of the website as possible. So if you're having trouble with some of your players being out of position, that kind of thing, we want you to be able to use the website to replace some of the labor that you normally have to do. But we will have the ability, we would think, this week for the commissioner just to enter the total scores that you guys have added up yourselves. So then that way it's not lost in the system. So it's not made any more difficult coming back to it in a week's time.
You're not getting punished.
You have your lineups that actually fit into the website.
Yep.
Exactly. But so we hope that update helped answer some questions, but otherwise, as we said, keep them coming through. We love hearing from you and your ideas, and we'll keep working away at fixing them and getting after releasing new features. So we're excited and we're learning each week, and we love growing the platform and growing our Draft Rugby community. So thank you again for bearing with us in another long Draft Rugby episode. This is episode 20, season 3, episode 23. And guys, if there's nothing else, I think we'll catch everyone again in the next one.
I just want you to check, mate. Once you do hop off, you might want to turn around and check on Chewy over there, because he has not moved this entire pod. So
that's true. Yeah, we are also on YouTube. You can get after us. I have a fantastic new Zoom background each week. The other boys aren't as creative as me, but look, I go through a lot of effort to get the important things right. So yes, check us out on YouTube as well and give us a subscribe. What do they say? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell. I don't know if we even have all 3 of those, but do it.
Sounded good.
Stay classy.